Are you looking for the best touchdown props for week 9 of the NFL season? Great, because I have the perfect menu on this week's episode of the IDP Plus Touchdown Props podcast. Welcome back to week 9 of the IDP Plus Touchdown Props podcast, where each week I've been giving you guys a sort of parlay buffet menu of sorts, where I'll just kind of lay out a series of players that I feel are in good positions to score a touchdown this week, whether it be matchups, just player streaks, or what have you, and just trying to I'm relaying the information that the research that I've done, the information that I've found to you all when I was going to research my own bets. And I just want to lay it out all on the table for you guys so you can kind of pick and choose which lines you like. Maybe you want to play some straight bets. Maybe you want to parlay a couple or a few together or something for a little extra payout this week or any given week. So I'm just going to kind of lay them out buffet style. You guys just kind of follow along, pick and choose. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me some comments. You can find me on Twitter at AxemanIDP. You can DM me questions. Let me know if you're tailing on anything or if I kind of helped you win some cash this week. We're all kind of here to lift each other up. So let's see if we can win some extra money this week. I'll go ahead and dive into it. We're going to break it up by position. So we'll start out with our running backs this week. We'll start out with Alvin Kamara with an anytime touchdown at minus 175 this week against Carolina. This is just going to be a mainstay for the season. Any team that plays Carolina, I'm most likely going to have the running back on this show that week for an anytime touchdown, because Carolina, I believe, has allowed a running back touchdown in like 25 straight games. Maybe with regard to last week, I don't think Javonte scored, but I don't recall if there were any running back touchdowns in that one specifically. But needless to say, if not, that would be the only game in like the last 2 years that they haven't allowed a running back touchdown. So Alvin Kamara getting Derek Carr back and now playing a Carolina defense. This is great for Kamara to kind of get the wheels turning a little bit more, kind of to where he was pre Derek Carr injury. Now, in terms of fantasy, we're kind of seeing him flirt between the 10, 15 points per game, where he was kind of seeing 20 or more before Derek Carr went down. So now this is great. A great matchup. You get your quarterback back, and you're the turbo in this offense. So I like Alvin Kamara's anytime touchdown for this week at minus 175 against the Carolina Panthers. Next on our plate here, we're going to look at the Buffalo-Miami matchup. I've got James Cook coming in at minus 160 for an anytime touchdown. He plays at home against the Dolphins, and Miami has allowed the second most touchdowns on the ground to opposing running backs this season, and they have allowed 10 in that respect. Let's see. Amari Cooper. Not Amari Cooper. What in the world? Oh, Cook has 7 touchdowns already. I must have had some notes on one of my other plays. We'll get to that later on. Oh, no. That's right. Amari Cooper got traded to the Buffalo Bills, and now he's really helped open things up for this offense. That's kind of what I was alluding to, I guess, there. I was lost in thought there. But that kind of helps Cook in the aspect of where they don't necessarily have to rely on him, because there for a while, Josh Allen was kind of struggling. So they were kind of having to lean on James Cook, and opposing defenses could kind of shut him out. But he's still kind of been the guy that they've gone to when they get in close. He has 7 touchdowns already. He already scored 2 on Miami earlier this year, and Miami has allowed every lead running back to score a touchdown on them this season. So Cook, having already had a good matchup against this team, now has Amari Cooper to, again, open things up in the pass game. You've seen even Keon Coleman get some better looks and some more touchdowns. So I like Cook to just kind of keep the ball rolling for this Buffalo offense against Miami. This ought to be a good game. It's projected to, I imagine, be a shootout. Let's see. Third on our list, we're going to take a look at the Detroit running backs. I've got Jahmyr Gibbs coming in at minus 115 and David Montgomery coming in at minus 130 for an anytime touchdown. They play the Green Bay Packers this week. And what else is there to say other than the fact that this Detroit rushing attack is the most elite in the league? It's probably, I mean, there's not been a team that can stop it. In like the last couple of years, especially this season, these two, Gibbs and Montgomery, have both scored in 4 of the 7 games. So that means there's only 3 games so far this season where just one of them didn't score, but at least one of them has scored in every single week. So I even don't mind putting both of these together. The odds are pretty good for us here for a couple of anchor plays on the best rushing attack in the league. I don't care what the matchup is. They could be playing the Minnesota Vikings or the Baltimore Ravens. I don't care. They're going to score at least one of them. So I like the Detroit running backs about every week. And this week, we're actually probably looking at some of the best odds we've seen all year on these running backs. So we will not spend too much time on them. We will move on to our next play here, and that is looking at the Chicago offense. We're specifically looking at DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown coming in at minus 105. He plays the Arizona Cardinals this week, who are kind of a middling defense. But Swift has scored in each of the last 4 weeks and is now averaging well over 110 yards from scrimmage in that time. Amid the passing ups and downs, Swift has kind of been the one consistent part of this offense as of late that they can kind of rely on each drive to kind of be consistent, get him yardage, kind of push for first downs, and keep drives alive. So he's playing a Cardinals defense that have allowed the 9 running back touchdowns so far this year, allowing over 1 per game to the position. And Arizona opponents have also scored on average over 20 points per game this season. So I like DeAndre Swift and his odds to come away with maybe one of the 2 to 3 touchdowns that Chicago is probably going to score in this one. He seems to have been getting the first look now that he's kind of got some steam. They've really been just going straight to him to try to get points on the board early. So I like DeAndre Swift. You might even kind of think about first touchdown, sprinkling a little something in there. But right now, for an anytime touchdown, we're looking at minus 105 for a return. We'll go ahead and move on now to our next play. We're going to take a look at the New York Giants running back Tyrone Tracy, who's caught steam as of the last 4 weeks. He comes in at plus 115 for an anytime touchdown. He plays the Washington Commanders, who for a for a team that has been just lights out. I mean, overall, they've impressed on both sides of the ball. They have been vulnerable in the rushing game. They've not been very good. Tyrone Tracy has taken over the New York Giants backfield. You want some proof, go back and look at the touches in the last 3 or 4 games. You'll see Tyrone Tracy has 18, 17, and 20 touches in 3 of those 4 games. He had 6 in 1, but I think that game was pretty out of hand early. And he's had 2 touchdowns in that same time. So they're not afraid to look to Tyrone Tracy early, and they've clearly given him this backfield over Devin Singletary at this point. So they're just going to kind of inch down the field as they do with the short underneath routes to Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. Then when they get in close, they'll try to punch it in with Tyrone Tracy on the first or second down before they go to the pass. But Tyrone Tracy should get plenty of opportunity. The Washington run game has allowed a rushing touchdown to everyone this year, but a pre-Winston's Browns offense with Jerome Ford and then Rachaad White in week 1. So I feel pretty good about Tyrone Tracy. Even though he's just kind of burst on the scene the last few weeks, he's proven that he's a competent running back. And, considering that the Washington Commanders have allowed 5 touchdowns to running backs in the last 3 games, I think that Tyrone Tracy ought to be in good hands this week to possibly punch one in. So he'll be the go-to when they get in close. Now to wrap up the running backs, we've got Achane with an anytime touchdown. He's coming in at plus juice with some plus 135 against the Buffalo Bills this week. Buffalo Bills have been pretty forgiving to the running back position so far this year. Mainly, they've allowed the most yards through the air to opposing running backs. And, I think this is Achane's game to shine over Mostert, where we saw Mostert get 2 touchdowns last week in their game. I think that this is Devon Achane's week to kind of get the wheels back on track. I know he still had a pretty successful game overall through yardage last week, but we're hoping maybe he's going to be the one that kind of pops off for the one or more touchdowns this week. Buffalo has allowed 3 touchdowns through the air, as well as their generosity on the ground to opposing running backs. That is actually second most in the league in touchdowns allowed through the air to running backs. And lately, they've tightened the clamps a bit in the touchdown Touchdown department, they've kind of limited the touchdowns in the last several weeks, but they've also played some struggling offenses. And I think with Tua back, and now the Dolphins are really just operating on all cylinders. I think now this is a good week for them to kind of get in a groove and keep pushing the ball down the field. And I think Devon Achane is in a prime position to catch a receiving touchdown or maybe even punch one in this week. So he's also getting what 5-6 receptions a game, so that just lends well to his usage in the receiving game. And Buffalo's just been letting running backs kind of do whatever in the receiving game. So if you let Devon Achane run loose, he will run one off for you. So I could easily see just kind of a short screen pass turn into like a 70-yard touchdown. That's not out of the realm of possibility for Devon Achane. So, but at plus 135, I like sprinkling that in there. We'll move on to the wide receivers now, and we'll kind of go. Yes, I don't have a particular order. I'll start out with the negative odds, and that's going to be CeeDee Lamb. He's coming in at minus 145 for an anytime touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have allowed 9 touchdowns to wide receivers so far this year. That's tied for 6th most in the league. And CeeDee is currently getting force-fed the ball week in and week out. The last 2 weeks specifically, he's seen 31 targets. That's over 15 targets per game. That's nuts. Dak has just been, like I said, he's just been force-feeding him. He's been just looking to him on every pass. There's not a whole lot of other other weapons that they have that they can really rely on. They've got Jake Ferguson, but he's Dak has that rapport with CeeDee Lamb, and he's just been going to him. So CeeDee has 4 touchdowns on the year. He had 2 last week, and now Dalvin being active in the backfield should keep this running back room somewhat fresh, help keep the ball kind of pushing down the field, and maybe give CeeDee Lamb more opportunities a little bit closer to the goal line. So CeeDee Lamb minus 145 for an anytime touchdown. I think Dak's going to keep peppering him with targets this weekend against a vulnerable Atlanta Falcons secondary. Next on the wide receiver list, we'll look at the Denver Broncos going up against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have been super generous to opposing wide receivers, and I've got Courtland Sutton here at plus 235 for an anytime touchdown. It's not particularly a sexy play, but the Ravens have allowed 13 touchdowns to wide receivers this season, so I have to imagine that Bo Nix is going to pass one in, and Sutton has by far seen the most red zone targets of any Denver receiver, and to be specific, he's seen over, or no, not over, nearly triple the red zone targets of the next. So I really like Courtland Sutton's matchup against Baltimore. It's kind of tough because Baltimore is just usually a pretty great defense, but they've just been leaking touchdowns. So I felt like I had to put a little something in here. If you don't like Sutton, you can maybe tap into one of the other options. There's just not too many right here, and Sutton has that touchdown pedigree that can be used here. So I think he gets first crack. Let's see. We'll move on here to our next pick, and that's going to be Lad McConkey with an anytime touchdown against the Cleveland Browns. This is coming in at plus 250. And we're getting some pretty good juice for these wide receiver props this week. The Cleveland Browns have allowed 9 wide receiver touchdowns so far this year, 5 in the last 3 weeks. And the Chargers have a quarterback with top 5 potential, but they've pretty much chose to run the ball all year. So that's kind of been the little caveat so far this year. But if you kind of look at the last few games, that's changed, at least ever since the bye week. Before the bye week, Justin Herbert was averaging 23 or so pass attempts leading up to that point. And then after the bye week, he's actually averaging 35 pass attempts in the last 3 weeks. So they've been pushing the ball down the field a lot. And Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnston are literally the only 2 pass catchers that have caught a touchdown from Justin Herbert this year. No other wide receiver or tight end has caught one. So McConkey has over double the targets as the next Chargers receiver. I think against a potentially vulnerable Cleveland secondary, I think Lad McConkey should eat out of the slot this week. And at plus 250, you're almost looking at triple your cash in profit just betting a straight bet on Lad McConkey. That is a great play this week. I love those odds, especially with him having gained steam in like the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've seen quite a bit of usage, touchdowns, yardage. I mean, he's filling this stat sheet. So I love this play. We're still going to keep the plus juice coming with Michael Pittman coming up here with a anytime touchdown at plus 200. He plays the Minnesota Vikings this week. So you're looking at a defense that is very vulnerable in the secondary. Oddly enough, they've allowed, let's see, the third most touchdowns to wide receivers this year, yet they lead the league in picks, or at least top like 3. So it's kind of strange. They're able to capitalize, but at the same time, they just leak yardage and touchdowns to opposing wide receivers and pass catchers. So Michael Pittman has Joe Flacco starting this week, and he has scored both of his touchdowns so far this year with Joe Flacco at quarterback. And I believe if I'm not mistaken, he was like the first look in both those games for Flacco in terms of scoring position. So I like that Flacco. I've been veering away from any Colts picks this season just because with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, I don't trust this offense to be able to consistently push the ball down the field. So far, Jonathan Taylor has been, and he would be kind of another one that I would kind of like. I think he might have had plus odds. If not, he was right around like minus 105, plus 105. He'd be another great one because Indianapolis should be able to push the ball down the field. And although Minnesota is a good rush defense, I think that Jonathan Taylor is kind of a matchup proof kind of guy when you get in close. So just another one to kind of think about. But I still really love this Michael Pittman play. You might even have some fun sprinkling and a little something else on one of the other Indianapolis pass catchers if you like, but I'm going to go with Michael Pittman here for the sure play. He ought to be the first one to get a chance to score. That's it of the wide receivers. Now let's take a look at a quarterback play that I wanted to put out here this week. That's Jalen Hurts coming in at plus 100 for an anytime touchdown against the Jacksonville Jaguars. What else is there to say other than Jalen Hurts has 5 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games? That's absurd. And the Jags defense has allowed 3 of the last 4 opponents to score 30 points, and no team has scored under 16 against Jacksonville. If Philadelphia is scoring over 30 points, Jalen Hurts is rushing one in. And I imagine that this game should go right on track. Jacksonville has just seemingly given up on defense, and with Jalen Hurts being the elite rushing QB he ought to find a way to score early so they can get points and just coast the rest of the game. So Jalen Hurts for plus money, let's get it. To wrap up the show here, at least with our our initial plays, I've got a tight end play for y'all. And we're looking at Brock Bowers for the Vegas Raiders coming in with for an anytime touchdown. He's looking at plus 190. And he plays a Cincinnati defense that has, since last year, been awful at guarding tight ends. They've allowed 4 touchdowns so far this year to the position, and that's tied for 3rd most allowed. Brock Bowers only has 1 touchdown on this so far on the season, but I think this is a great game for him to capitalize. And surprisingly, the Raiders have been pretty efficient overall, regardless of who's been quarterback. So I think they're able to push the ball down the field, and I think at least one of the pass catchers for this defense, or for this defense, this New York or Las Vegas Raiders offense should catch one. I think the first 2 to get a chance should probably be Bowers and Jacoby Myers. So that's just a couple of plays there. Brock Bowers looking a little bit better there with 1 at plus 190. I think just the talent. He's gonna. It's only a matter of time before he finds the end zone and he gets real comfortable there. I know he's found it already, but he ought to find a groove. He's got the talent, so this is a great matchup for him. Now we're gonna get into a couple of eyes-on plays, maybe some honorable mentions that I've been kind of putting out there. So we'll lay it out here. We've got Travis Kelce alert. He scored his first touchdown of the season. Usually you wouldn't see Travis Kelce get not such great odds, but even teetering with plus money odds. Now we're looking at plus 100 right now for anytime touchdown, and Tampa Bay has allowed 4 touchdowns to tight ends so far this year. I think that's like 3rd most allowed. It ought to be a great chance for Kelce to continue building off of his performance from last week. So I like Kelce this week. I also like Kareem Hunt. The only reason I didn't put him on here is because he's looking at minus 220, but you can maybe use him as like a lock play for y'all this week. So if you want to just a leg you can feel comfortable about, the Kansas City offense has just been operating completely through him. And if they get down the field, they give him the first chance because he's likely the one that's helped them push the ball down the field and get the first down. So he's just been a heavily utilized asset since they've attained him. I'm also still keeping eyes on David Njoku and Cedric Tillman, both coming in at over plus 185 for Njoku and plus 220 for Cedric Tillman. And mainly, I've kind of wanted to bet on Njoku this year, but with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, I just haven't been able to trust any Browns offense. But with Jameis Winston, he's just going to sling it, and he's not going to be so worried. He's not going to have the pressure. He ought to have. I mean, just last week you saw him score 20, 30 some fantasy points and come away with like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Cedric Tillman had a couple of them, and Njoku had one as well. So I think he's going to look to Njoku and Cedric Tillman often, with defenses probably honing in on Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore for now. I think we might have at least one more week where Cedric Tillman is flying under the radar and can still score, and it seems like Jameis Winston really likes him and Njoku, especially in the red zone. So I'm still keeping eyes on them. I feel pretty confident about their scores this week. I don't know what it was, just I think it was the matchup this week against the Chargers that kind of kept me from putting them on the list, but I still feel pretty strongly about them, even as honorable mentions. So that will wrap us up so far for this week. I will just, kind of reiterate to everybody, go ahead and visit the show. Go to idpplus.com and check out the kind of tools that we have. If you go visit our other YouTube videos, we have all kinds of promo codes. Look in the descriptions. There's 10, maybe even 20% off out there off of the subscription. And I imagine at this point in the year, we will probably be getting into good deals where you can get maybe a month or so, get a good deal on a month or two of, just kind of testing the subscription, see what you like. But we've got all kind of props. We've got prop betting shows. We've got DFS. We've got articles. We've got defensive props. Johnny and I have a defensive props show. There's all kinds of betting content out there, along with fantasy and IDP tools and information, data on the website. Check it out. It's great. We've revamped it to idpplus.com. Go check it out. See what we have to offer. And if you like it, great. If not, at least you got a little bit of a discount and you gave us a try. So go ahead and visit the site, check us out. And, again, I just want to remind everybody to bet smart. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER and talk to somebody who can get you some help. So I just want to remind everybody to be responsible. Don't bet past your limits. And let's have a little fun here. See if we can make some extra cash. Have a nice dinner, a few extra drinks this weekend while we're watching some football. So let's make this a little extra fun. So thanks everybody for coming back and watching another week of the IDP Plus Touchdown Props podcast. I'll see you next week for another round of the Parlay Buffet for week 10. But until then, good luck in week 9. And again, we'll see you next week. Thanks everyone.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.